All right, welcome to the 2025 Successful Goal Setting Seminar. I'm really excited that you're taking the time to listen and watch this because I feel very, very passionately about this whole framework, this whole mindset. It's helped me achieve a level of success in multiple things that is far beyond what I thought possible for myself. But it's really changed my life, not only as a strongman athlete, but as a friend, as a partner, as a business person. And once you kind of tap into these things, you can use it to become a far greater individual than you could ever imagine. So, without further ado, I would like to just kind of dive right into this and get going. So, the title here again is the 2025 Successful Goal Setting Seminar. Okay, this is how to guarantee a winning year. Guaranteed. I don't like to throw around guarantees, but it's going to happen if you apply these things that we're going to talk about today. I want you to make this personal for you. I will share some of these successful ways that I use this, but many, many people have done this, and you can too. Okay. So, in the next week, as of the time of this recording, it's December 30th. It's going to be millions, maybe tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people that are going to be setting New Year's resolutions. We all know this, but only thousands or possibly even hundreds will really truly achieve them. People are going to be creating vision boards, start writing mantras. They'll do calendars, day planners, create incantations. They'll go get that gym membership. They'll start journaling. They'll start reading or listening to self-help books. But at best, the best case scenario, not being pessimistic, I'm being realistic, only 90% of them at best, well, excuse me, only 10% of them will make it. 90% of them are going to completely drop off within 2 months. And the chances are you've been there too, because we've all done this. You start not just the new year or a new phase in your life and you're super motivated and you think this time's going to be different. I'm going to make all these changes. Things are going to be different. For me, I've thrown vision boards in the trash after a few months. Then I get frustrated because I'm not making the progress I want or getting the achievement that I wrote out or set to achieve. I've quit challenges or things like 75 hard, that I just stopped halfway through. I stopped doing good things for me, good habits. I would fall back on my vices. And there's a lot of times where I spent years pretty much stuck at the exact same place that I had been. Now, the thing that you have to understand is that, failure doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means the approach was wrong. That call that's inside of you that says that you're deserving more and that there's that thing that you want to get, that's real and that's true. And you should listen to that. Just because you don't have it yet does not mean that you cannot get it and then get much more than you thought possible. So we're going to get into this formula for goal setting that anyone can use for success, whether it's strength, health, finances, relationships, anything you can think of. If you really take this framework, you can have it. Okay? This seminar today is going to dig into specifically some things with strength sports and physical achievement. But if you're interested in also building your business or anything else, apply it to that. Okay? As I've said before, this is not like my formula. This is not, Steve's success formula. I've spent a lot of time learning from a lot of other people that have all centered in on these ideas. They've all keyed in to this success formula. So what I want to do is just pass this on to you because these people have opened up and changed my way of thinking and helped me out so much. And the least I can do is try to get you to, maybe change your perspective or try something different and truly make changes that are going to benefit you. Because we've all got that thing inside of us that wants a little more. And like I said before, I've been stuck and I know what that feels like. So the people that I've learned from, this is just a short list, but going on 5 to 10 years, some of the ones that have stood out more recently, Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza. I've been digging into a lot of Elliot Hulse recently. My coach that I started with when I was 15, Josh Bryant, legendary strongman Bill Kazmaier, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. There's other names on here that you may recognize or maybe not, but again, this is not me that created this, and I'm not taking credit for it. I want to, kind of get you to tune into this. So maybe look up some of these people, or if you know one of these names or two and you really like them, consume a little bit more of what they've got. My journey, I talk about going from, fat, weak, and sad to jacked, strong, and happy. When I was putting this together, the first thing that I looked at least noticed when I was going through this, seminar, putting this together is before, I've got some muscle here, had a decent level of strength, but I cannot really genuinely smile, and that's something at my core. Even if I was trying to look tough and look hard, it just was, the paradigm that I was stuck in. I was not really truly happy with who I was and where I was. So this picture here on the top left, this was one of the things that started to change it all for me. I was feeling good about my strength. I thought I was getting better, but honestly, this was one thing where I saw that picture and for whatever reason, I just said, man, I cannot believe that I look like that. I'm done. So I started to audit what I was doing, started trimming down. And this one right here was what led me to being lean, to having muscle, to getting these strongman competition wins, to finishing top 10, and also just cheesing, genuinely having this big smile on my face more often than not now. I mean, it's work. It is work. I'm not going to pretend and sit here and just tell you that it's all going to come easy, because it's not. But if you're here and you're even listening to this, you're strong enough to get this done. When I think about these things, I've always started with the quote from Bill Kazmaier. Bill Kazmaier says, conceive, believe, achieve. Kazmaier is one of the most legendary strongmen in history. I mean, the accolades are endless. So over my shoulder here is a poster of, it's got to be 30 different achievements to his name, and that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. But he was, among other things, 3-time world's strongest man. And it's a true story that he was so dominant that they stopped inviting him because it was not competitive, because they wanted to build up other stars. So they got people in like Jeff Capes from the UK and John Paul Sigmarsson from Iceland to come in so they could have other people get a shot at the throne. That's how good he was. Bill Kazmaier was the first to bench 300 kilos. That's 661 pounds raw without the assistance of a suit or anything else. He's the first to press the Thomas Inch dumbbell. It's a 176-pound dumbbell with a really thick handle. He's first to one hand clean and pick it up and press it overhead. He was the first to press the Inverse Stone, which is a 265-pound rock out in Scotland that people have lifted for over 1,000 years. He was the first to do that. Multi-time powerlifting world champion. He won powerlifting world championships with torn quads, torn biceps, and then just dozens of other world firsts and world records. So what Kazmaier says is conceive, believe, achieve. It really does, when we boil it down really simply, it really does come down to conceiving it in your mind, believing with all of your might, and then just making it happen, achieving it in your reality. These words can make it seem simple, but it is not without challenges. The first thing that we got to recognize is the way we were raised, our society, media, people around us. We do have these programs that are in us that are hindering our path to success. Okay. And it said hindering, not preventing. Very important. So before we kind of get into all of this, it's like really important to understand, ourselves and our mind so we can prime our system for success and achievement. So this starts with the power of belief. I think it's most important to get into this first before we talk about conceive. So let's talk about belief. The placebo effect, you've probably heard of it, but it's the phenomenon when a person's physical or mental condition can improve or get worse after taking a placebo or totally blank treatment, but that person believes it's some sort of therapeutic. So the placebo effect in many, many studies has been shown to release endorphins, the feel good chemicals, increase relaxation, improve your immune function, influence gene expression, and change neurotransmitter levels. So when I say gene expression, I mean that's the process by which your genetic code is transcribed into RNA and then translated into proteins that carry out specific functions in the body. But to think of it simply, gene expression is just a job that a cell performs, right? In our genetic code, in our DNA, every individual has basically got a set of switches that are going to respond a certain way, right? And placebo effect can actually change what switches are going on and off. So there's some things that could, for example, only make you put 60% of your power out. But with this placebo treatment or this belief, you can turn on more to get 80%, 90%, or 100%, right? Really interesting stuff. One of the most famous studies around this is the Harvard Medical did rash cream study, where participants, all of them were given a placebo. They were told different things about what it was going to do. So, depending on what those people were told, some would have rashes develop from nothing. Some had rashes that healed. Then some had rashes that would stay the exact same or even just get worse when they were given a complete phony cream. Okay, so this is evidence that just through the power of belief, you can positively or negatively influence an outcome. It can also create something out of nothing. It can also keep you in the exact same place. So this is why it's important to understand belief when we're going through this process, is that you have to believe with zero doubts, 100% in ourselves and our abilities to reach our goals and live our dreams. Because if you're going through the steps and the actions, but you don't believe, your brain and body are going to influence you to not achieve it, right? This is, somebody that gets that gym membership and starts that diet, but still thinks, I can't make it, I won't make it. Why do you think they don't if they don't believe in themselves? It's just proven right here through the power of belief and the placebo effect. So as an athlete, the way you can use this a little bit is to believe in the efficacy of yourself, your program, and your coach. You can believe that what you're training for, who's running you through it, and how you're doing it is going to be successful. Again, it's turning on all those little gene transmitters, those things in your entire body that are going to be conducive to success. I mean, this goes down to the smallest cells in every single organ and part of your body that it's going to then perform better if just your belief is that you are going to perform better with this program. It also means believing in potential and capabilities of every workout. It believes in your outcomes. But most importantly, possibly, is you have to believe in your personal tendencies. I always blank. I'm blank. I'm sure you've heard people say stuff before like my deadlift is trash. I'm terrible at overhead pressing. I'm a mediocre strongman. Like I'm an average CrossFitter, like whatever. You know, people have these things that they say, and even in jest, you're making that more real by creating that layer over and over and over again. So even if you think it's like just a joke, people post memes all the time, sometimes daily, about like their anxiety or whatever, and they make it more real. So this is what we really have to, think about when we're wanting to change ourselves, is like, what do we really believe in? And even if we're joking about it, like, are we making it more real? Is that really like a belief somewhere that we've got to like audit and think about and fix? But the thing is, it's possible that some of these things are actually true now. It's possible, let's say you're in powerlifting and one of your lifts is far behind the others. It's possible that that lift is no good in comparison. But if you want to be great, does the future version of yourself still have that, asset or, low performing number? No. Okay. If you envision yourself being somebody who's really confident and you want to get out and like do public speaking, but you always joke about your anxiety, like, is that what somebody who's a public speaker would do? Absolutely not. So these things have to change. And it all starts here and now. So this is the first step to setting these goals and making the real change. You have to be completely open, honest, transparent, and objective about where you are right now. As a hard principle, you have to accept this. If you have the correct starting point, you can find the right path forward. If you think you are way further ahead than you are, like let's say you were climbing up a mountain and you thought you were halfway up, but in reality, you're at the very bottom, your whole game plan is going to be different. You have to prepare differently. You're setting yourself up thinking, X, but really Y. So, if you're really at the bottom, you need much more supplies. You need probably a different path. You need different equipment. The whole thing is different. Okay. A lot of people like in the strongman world say, I want to be world's strongest man, but a lot of them spend a lot of hours falling prey to their vices. Honestly, for me, spend too much time watching porn and jerking off, smoking weed, playing video games, just continually falling prey to those things. That's why you got to be honest about your results. If you keep falling up short, you have to ask yourself why. And if you can't figure out why, that's okay. Ask for help. This is also something that I had a problem with very regularly. I would not get help from anybody. Thought I was good enough to do it all, but in reality, by getting more help, it made me much better at everything I wanted to be better in. Once you've completely become honest about your present reality, you can start to lock in on exactly what you need to change for your growth. So this is an example from me about my overhead. I used to always say, my overheads are trash. My log is trash. Over my strongman career, I've actually zeroed 8 pressing events, meaning couldn't score a single point. Started to work on it a little bit. 2022, I got third at a local competition. Now, the thing is that I railroaded the rest of the events. True story. But, as I was taking this honest and objective look at myself, the reality is I'm not going to be any good at the highest level if I'm zeroing pressing events. So I hired a coach to specifically help me with that. So then we go into 2023. I did make it to the World Championships, but I finished 31st out of 38 in the overhead medley. So that's bottom quarter. This was part of a medley where I got 0 reps with the circus dumbbell at 160 pounds. Now, because I chose to pursue these bigger goals and got some help along the way, within 6 months, I got a circus dumbbell that I, zeroed 10 pounds heavier for 5 reps at USS Nationals. Then I got second place in the OSG regionals with a 245 for four log press. This year I got 250 for two, and I got 17th on the log. Now, this only happened because I accepted that I was not getting the results I wanted. I admitted I needed help. I got help, and I have continued to receive help now for almost 2 years in that specific area. So while this is specific to strongman and my log pressing right now, this really does work for anything else. So now we can come back to conceive. Where are you going? You have to have a clear idea of where you are headed. We can go back to this mountain analogy and think if you know exactly where the peak is, you can figure out what path to take, how to navigate. It's not going to be a perfectly linear straight line, but if you have that destination, you can stay focused on it, know your end goal, and constantly recalibrate to get there. So I like using the example of torpedo, or also like a homing missile that's shot out of a fighter jet. So what torpedoes do is when they're shot out, they have the target, but they constantly calibrate where it's going, because it's a moving target and it can make deflections. It can go side to side, it can pick up speed, but this torpedo knows its target without any doubt whatsoever. It is programmed to find what it is, so it's constantly recalibrating. It's got to make an adjustment this way, that way, this way, that way. It's got to pick up speed. Maybe it's got to slow down for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. It's going to do what it has to do in order to get there, but it's only going to be successful because it's locked in to its end goal. So we have to work the exact same way. We have to be very clear about where we're going. If we just don't know, or we're out in the ocean without any idea whatsoever, or just totally clueless, then you can't be sure of what you're really working at. This is why it's important to be specific about some goals, like to say, I want to lose 15 pounds instead of I just want to lose some weight. Then we can measure, assess, and analyze when we are clear and specific about what it is that we want and where we are going. So this kind of boils down to your dream. What is your dream life? Okay, it really should be at the focus of everything that you're doing, because it's just going to energize you. If you know beyond any doubt whatsoever that you would do anything to have that dream life, and it's yours and what you really want, like nothing else matters. We're going to be able to overcome challenges and overcome adversities, because that deep feeling inside of us is so real and so true to get that thing, that we'll do it again at all costs. But sometimes, we're a little clouded and it's hard to lock in on that. So here are some questions. This is from Paul Chek and the Chek Institute, about 10 questions to find your dream. Okay, so these would be good things to ask yourself to really figure out and focus in on this. What do you dream about? What makes you feel good? What gives you a sense of purpose? What geography would you choose? If you want to be the best mountain climber in the world, doesn't make much sense to live at the beach. Okay? What are you passionate about? What people would you surround yourself with? What values are needed to support your dream? What would be your chosen working environment? What is the income that you need to live your desired lifestyle? And lastly, what level of responsibility are you ready to accept? It's things you really got to think about. If you would like a copy of this, I will happily send them to you. Shoot me a message and I will send you these 10 questions. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Once again, when you want something bad enough, you will do whatever it takes to figure it out. So when we're figuring out that dream, once we have really locked into that, we can use some of this criteria to create that. So number one is establish a motive. Like, what do you love enough to change for? Like, what's the driver out of all of this? A lot of people, especially in fitness, like parents, they're starting to get overweight or slowing down. Like, they would do anything to have happy and healthy years, like with their kids, to keep up with their kids, to pick them up and live as full and good and healthy of a life as possible for them. So that's an example of establishing a motive, right? That's something you love enough to change for. When you actually need to change, you need to avoid ruminating on what you don't have. That's just energizing old pathways and roots that you have in the past. We can't live in the past. We have to be looking forward to this, dream and these goals that we're conceiving and trying to become and create. Part of the ways we can do that is by celebrating what you do have. Common theme that we're going to keep going over is the process. You have to know the joy is in the journey, in the process, and becoming this person, not just crossing the finish line. You have to think about, how can I become a living example of what's possible in your love? So if again, want to change for your children, you have to become a living example of what's possible for them. When you're choosing this thing, you have to also be realistic. This is the Paul Chek recommendation, but for goals, it's best to set a goal that's no greater than 50% of what you've previously achieved. Now, one thing that I think is important to mention is that I do think it's very important to aim extremely high, but we need to break some of these down into different levels of goals. If your goal is to, let's say, deadlift 800 pounds, but you're stuck at 315 right now, the first thing you got to focus on is 405. It's just that simple, 4 plates. Okay. So when we're thinking about the steps, there's need to be some in between now, here, and where you're going in the big picture. So work on those little ones to follow the path, find joy in the journey, and keep you tied to your motive. Always remember that commitment is greater when the goal is your own. A lot of people go into paths and lifestyles that they feel pressured to or think is important for society. For me personally, like when I originally went to college, I am a college dropout. I went to college because I thought that I was supposed to get status. I thought I was supposed to just live this typical life and become a lawyer or something like that, and I was not doing that for me whatsoever. I knew in the back of my head, I knew the things that I wanted, but it didn't, never really brought me joy. Once I've committed fully to what I love to do, everything has just gotten so much better. And then finally, process versus outcome goals. Process goals are set to give rewards while in the process of your chosen outcome. So this ties back to, having steps between your big grand dream and now. So you can see, yes, I am on the journey. I think you should give yourself room to celebrate when you're achieving these milestones. Again, give yourself a pat on the back, encourage yourself that, heck yeah, I'm doing it. If your goal is to lose 15 pounds, you need to be stoked that you lost 5 because you're doing it. You're on the way. You have to remember that being committed is more important than being rigid. We all have tough lifestyles. We all have complications in life. It just happens. And then a lot of people will completely derail their progress because things don't go perfect. If you are 80-20 for a long time, You are going to get there. Okay. Now let's kind of take all of these into a real example. I hear it all the time. I will be the world's strongest man. So if that was really your goal, let's break down all of these little things we just went over. So let's establish a motive. These are just some examples. Some people say to be an inspiration for kids all over the world. It's like one of the things Eddie Hall says. He wanted to be an example for his son and for kids that had a rough, troubled past. Some people just say, I want to see human potential maximized. That's somebody like a Mariusz Pudzianowski who just wanted to see how far he could take things and push himself as hard as he possibly could. Some people want to make the world a happier, stronger place. A lot of this gets deeper than that. A lot of this stems from your personality, the things that you've been through, and the things that you don't want to see others go through, whether it's your community, your family, anything like that. But these are some possible motives. When we're thinking about how to change, really think in your brain about rewiring thought patterns, going from blank to blank. Like I think all the time about where I've gone from, being very overweight, out of shape, just sad and just not super happy with life to, now enjoying what I do and really being pretty stoked to live in and get after it every day. You're going to need to overcome adversity. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you, especially self-imposed. We talked about some of this language, like people talking and joking about their anxiety, or I'm trash at this, or I'm always that. It doesn't matter like what happened in the past. The future can be different if you choose to be. And we can get that done by daily repetitive action. So we'll dig into that a little bit more, some of those actions, but just have to become the person that is capable of it. You just have to. Okay. When you're choosing your love, dream, or goal, again, how much time, effort, and money is it going to take? Coming back into like being the world's strongest man, it's expensive. It's realistic. If you're slaving away at minimum wage job, maybe like a hard labor one, you don't sleep very well. You don't get to you don't get enough money to eat all the food that you need to eat, and you're struggling, you're not going to make it. You have to be able to pay for your gear, your food, your equipment, for travel, for all these things, your coach. You're going to need all of these things to support your journey. So if you're not, just ground level one, you don't have enough time to travel for that, you're tired all the time and you're broke, then you cannot do these things. This is just a reality of the situation. We all have had tough moments in our lives, but we've overcome that. It's just another one. If your goal is really enormous, like this is going back to, you're going to have to audit like your current reality and figure out like what that person that is capable of being world's strongest man really has going on in their life. You know, Even somebody like Mitch Hooper, like now he's got his sponsorships and this and that, but he started making money from YouTube. He has his own physical therapy practice, right? Gavin the Bull Bilton, who's a pro strongman over in England, he's not winning money at any of these big time competitions, but he works security, right? Derek Poundstone, one of the best strongmen in the late 2000s, was a police officer. Even Ronnie Coleman, the greatest bodybuilder of all time, for the first half of his career, he did not make enough money bodybuilding to support his life. He was a cop, he was a police officer, and he loved doing that. So that saved him, you know, with living low stress because he liked being a cop. He was making money and he had enough time and time off to travel and go to these competitions and do what he needed to do. If you're going to be the world's strongest man, do you need a coach or several coaches? Do you have all the equipment at your disposal? Things like a circus dumbbell or a log, like you can't really just go train at Crunch or Amped or 24-hour fitness and then show up and be the best log presser. So what do you do about that? Do you find a gym? Do you have to travel? Do you have to move somewhere where you have access to all this equipment? Of course, where and when are you starting from? If you're 50 years old and you've never strength trained before, like, is that realistic? I don't know. Probably not. Definitely not if that's the case. But just assessing this. But there's other things you could get into, like master strongman. You could go and chase some world records. There's things in this realm, in this avenue, that would be personally fulfilling in much of the same way that could be achieved by you being this living example and rising above your adversities. And of course, is this your own goal? Are you doing this for yourself, or are you doing it because you think other people would think it's cool? Right? As we're talking about the process, follow the path. Like just relating this to specifically becoming world's strongest man, you're going to have to go from winning local competitions to winning regional ones to winning national ones to winning or placing high in pro and international ones. And finally, fifth step, just on these big grand steps here, is competing and placing at the world's strongest man. So you don't get to just show up a random invite out of nowhere for doing nothing and win the big crown. Same thing. We talked about like our deadlift. You're going to need to take these steps one at a time. Like if you want to be the world's strongest man, you probably have to be deadlifting around 900 or close to it. But you can't just like set the goal to say, I'm going to deadlift 900 if all you're doing is 500 right now. You need to get to 600 first, and then 700 first, and then 750, and then 800, and then 850, then 900, and then again, kind of reassessing. Do you need to go further than that? Maybe not. Same with your body weight. Same with specific events. As I compete in the lightweight category for the world's strongest man, I went from zeroing events to scoring points, and now I've made it to the top half. And if I ever want to win this thing, I've got to go top quarter, and then I have to be among the very best. It's just very factual. Okay? Just being real. You have to become this person. That's what it all boils down to. You have to become this person. So let's again think about what are the qualities of an elite strongman. These are all things that would be conducive to your success if this is what you wanted. You have to prioritize sleep. You have to train with the right equipment. You have to eat like it's a job. You cannot skip recovery. You got to have enough money to eat, train, and live how you need. Your whole lifestyle has to be conducive to your success. An elite strongman typically has a coach or several. I'm going to also include that typically means they have a chiropractor or a massage therapist or a physio person that helps them stay well. This person regularly competes. I see people all the time that say they want to be the very best, and they do one show every 2 or 3 years, and they're cherry picked because they like the events. This person follows training programs, and they don't just wing what they're doing in the gym. This person believes in his or herself. They do not put limits on themselves or handicap themselves. They don't chronically use drugs or alcohol, and they have supportive relationships. So if you're somebody who's listening to this and you're thinking, I want to be the best in the world, I really suggest getting in on these qualities as soon as you can. As soon as you can. I hope you can do it today. So when we're kind of thinking about these things, I have personally gone through this process. I thought about what do I need to get to the highest levels. This is done through a process called visualization. We've all visualized things in our lives, and a lot of people say something like anxiety is visualizing the worst case scenario about something. And if you've ever had that or dealt with that, you get nervous, you get in a cold sweat because you're visualizing what you're going to feel like in that moment if things go the worst possible way. You'll be embarrassed, you'll be scared, and so you start to take on those emotions. But instead, what if we were to visualize things positively and things the way we want them to be instead of just like what they could be, right? Through regular practice, this does not come just automatically to some people. That's why it's got to be practice. You can identify these habits, emotions, attitudes, and daily actions that you need to live this dream and be that person. Now, the really cool thing is that the central nervous system, which is tied into your subconscious, it absolutely cannot distinguish between an experience in real life and a vividly imagined experience. So this means if you visualize strongly, you're literally practicing being that person. This is no different from, sitting in a chair. If you wanted to be a great basketball player, just sitting still and just imagine yourself shooting free throws over and over in that audience, in that arena, with all the players around you, thinking about how the ball feels in your hand, thinking about your technique and your form. You're literally ingraining that over and over again. It is practicing over and over. So if we're going to practice and visualize being that person, we're slowly building it up in ourselves. Like even if we just practice being happy, if we practice being excited to train, or we practice in our mind, getting up early to hit that training session, slowly trickles in and starts to, change the way you think and you see and you feel about things. But you have to basically sign your name to it in reality by showing up and doing it and taking action. So we have to have this combination of conceiving, which is this visualization. We're creating it. You have to believe that you're going to get it done. And now taking action is the achieving. We do daily, repetitive habits and actions to create this massive, drastic, positive change. When we're talking about the process, you have to remember, what habits does the future you have? It can be anything. But the good news is that a new habit, it's been proven scientifically, can be formed in 30 to 60 days. And habits are things that are done second nature, that you don't even think about doing it. This is part of our subconscious, which we're going to take some time talking about here in a minute. The subconscious is so important. It guides almost everything we do in our life. So we can build a strong and supportive subconscious to our goals by living and creating habits. So if a new habit can be formed in 30 to 60 days, in 1 year, you could have 8 to 12 brand new habits. I want you to think about, if you were to write down right now 10 habits that you wanted to have in your life, and think about what it would do for your whole paradigm, for your whole lifestyle, to actually be doing those every single day, it would look amazing. I want you to really think about that. But try to only do one at a time. Some people can take on multiple, but that can lead to kind of a burnout and crash, and you can feel overwhelmed. So I don't want to say don't do it, but if you need to start making changes, start with one habit, then layer on another, then layer on another, then layer on another. This is why I wanted to include the compounding interest chart, is because, if we're layering these habits, this is how our progress happens. Let's relate it to just fitness again, to strength training. Let's just say you start sleeping better. Awesome. That's going to make a huge difference. You're going to start moving up positively. Once you have that locked in, you're going to start eating higher quality food and getting in more protein. Well, guess what? That allows you to sleep better. So it doesn't just keep going linearly. It starts to pick up a little more sharply. Let's say then you started to meditate 3 times a week, which is going to help you relax, help you sleep better, help digest food better. Guess what? We're stacking 1, 2, 3. And again, it's not this linear thing. We're allowing those previous steps to ramp up more. Then if you stretched, then if you worked on your recovery, this is how we can create this like absolutely gigantic change, because we can start layering these habits on one by one by one, and boom, they can all complement each other and just explode on one another to skyrocket and just build something incredible. This is really how this works. You need to think too, all these examples here, but how much time this would look like. Like, what would it do if you had over 2,000 minutes a year from now of meditating? What would that do for your mental state? How good would you feel if you had 3,000 minutes of stretching? Imagine how much more conditioned if you did 70 marathons over the course of a year just from walking. It would create a pretty big change. So, kind of as a reminder, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. You have to continue to ask yourself tough questions, commit to greater. You're going to have to embrace discomfort. Do not wait. Get it going. Trust your gut and stay focused. Okay. The thing is that there are still going to be hazards and roadblocks. So then what? This is where a lot of people get stuck and they give up. They find their dream, they visualize, they start taking action, and then they get some big adversity and they fold. So now what? Let's use that same visualization process to visualize challenges and what the winner that you are becoming is going to do about them. I got this picture of this person looking out into the rain because I heard it was a Mel Robbins podcast. Actually, she was talking about, you have to visualize, like, if your goal is to run a marathon, you have to commit to your training program, even on those days when it's 4 a.m. and it's pouring out and you're staring at your shoes and you're thinking, do I really have to go do this? And the answer is yes. So when we're practicing our visualization, we also have to think about what we're going to feel like when we come across these roadblocks. You have to think about how are you going to respond and react? Are you going to let something like that rain stop you from achieving your goal, or are you going to, step in to that mindset and be prepared for when it happens, because challenge will happen. So are you going to be prepared to keep going? You can get ahead of the curve and practice being challenged by visualizing tough moments and tough situations. Because life is just not all positive. You're not just going to get everything handed to you by making these changes. You're going to have to level up and face adversity. You're going to have to use positive imagery and self-talk. A lot of people, myself included, say the old me was blank, the new me is blank. Something that Tony Robbins talks a lot is if you come across somebody that smoked for 10 years and hasn't for the last 5, if you were to offer them a cigarette, the most common response is, I'm not a smoker. And that's their identity. They are not that person anymore. So now once we're kind of tapping into these things, we're using visualization, we have belief, we've conceived, the thing that we want, we're doing these daily actions to achieve that goal. Now things like mantras and affirmations, incantations can really help us stay locked into this. I am blank. I am strong. I am happy. I am powerful. I am capable of anything. Make it your own. Taking strength from your future self is another good one to do this. Like I said, think about those challenges you've overcome. How good are you going to feel if you go on that run at 4 in the morning, it's pouring rain, and you got your 3 miles done, or whatever it is? You're going to get back in and you're going to be, I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad that I did that. So think about those challenges and how you're going to feel to overcome them, and just do it over and over and over again. There's really no such thing as too much of this. All these ideas and words, again, they must be turned into action and commitment. Otherwise, they're just fantasies. So when those opportunities are presented, whether it's a good one or a challenge, you've got to take action on it. Here's an application furthering into visualization. Again, specifically for strongman and strength competitions, start by visualizing and imagining yourself as successful. You need to be using that self imaging and that self-talk as positive about the process and the outcome, but don't attach to the outcome. Imagine how good it's going to be to improve so much. Imagine how proud you're going to be of your hard work, because that's going to allow you to enjoy the process and reap the rewards of it. That's how we end up getting these results that are far greater than what we thought possible, is by enjoying the journey and training with a lot of enthusiasm and excitement. That's how we get our nervous system and our subconscious to transfer that gene expression into as high and positive a level as possible to push us to success. If you know what you're going into with a competition, why don't you try and visualize and feel the sights, sounds, smells, and sensations? So, like doing a yoke carry, I try to picture, I know how that's going to feel on my back. Try to visualize seeing my other competitors next to me. Try to visualize where I'm going to look when I'm doing this run, how my feet are going to move, how my belt feels when it's wrapped on nice and tight, the way I'm going to breathe, what I'm going to focus on in that moment. So again, it's literally practicing over and over and over and over and over again. There's things like powerlifting meets when I've, gone back and traveled to go to Metroflex. I know what that place looks like. I know what it smells like. I know what, the warm-up areas of powerlifting and strongman meets smell like. They smell like chalk, baby powder, BO, and smelling salts. So by creating that whole environment, I'm once again getting this practice over and over and over and over again. So by the time I'm ready to step up and do it, it's like I've done it for the 100th or the 1,000th time. And then of course you have to also feel the emotions, because like I know that I get nervous, but I'm excited. And it's okay if you're nervous. That means you're doing something big and important. But you have to practice this so that it doesn't overwhelm you and psych you out when it's time to go. One of the most important things to understand is your subconscious. Your subconscious controls 95% of your brain activity. That's why all of this stuff is so important. You have to believe and act as the person you become, because your subconscious mind filters everything. The conscious mind up here is choosing. This is your thinking and your choosing brain, but it's all filtered through that subconscious. So back to the example of, if you get a gym membership and you work out and you start to follow a diet, but deep down you really truly believe that you're fat and you're always going to be fat, everything you do is filtered through that. So if you come across a challenge, but you're still thinking, oh, here we go again, I'm fat, I'm always going to be fat, that's what you're going to default to. So this is why we got to use all of these tools that we're going through today to get ahead of that and completely change our paradigm so that we're not that person anymore. The old me was blank. I am now blank. The new me is this, whatever you want. Now, here and now, who are you? What are you doing? Why is this different? Say it in the present tense. I'm not a smoker. Okay? The subconscious really is very powerful. It's constantly taking in information. Even if you're not consciously listening to a song, your mind is subconsciously picking up on lyrics, the beat, and the noise. So it's really important to try and control your environment when you can. You can't always do that, but you need to be very careful about what is going in and out, because the conscious mind chooses and the subconscious only accepts. And this is 90-10, but it could even be 95-5. But either way, this is how it works. It is this huge, huge split here where almost overwhelmingly more of the way you see the world and the way the world is to you is in the subconscious or the unconscious mind. So let's just look at these things that the subconscious controls, automatic bodily functions, including your immune system, right? Your beliefs, your creativity, your emotions, your habits, identity, imagination, intuition, long term memory, protective reactions, self confidence, self worth, and values. So let's just tie this back to, when we're looking forward and we have these goals we want to achieve. If we can start thinking about like the subconscious of the person that you want to become, then we can slowly start to use all these tools, the visualization, the positive self talk, the daily habits that are going to create the 90% in your mind that is conducive to success. This does not always happen quickly. Sometimes you have a lot to undo, which is an unfortunate reality. But with focus, recognizing where you're at here and now, staying tied to your belief, if it's one that you really love and have full conviction in that you want this above everything else, and you take full responsibility for it, you're going to get there. You're going to be somebody who's healthy, strong, happy, creative, has amazing habits. They get up early and get all their stuff done early in the morning. They have loving relationships. They feel great about themselves. They're a good, honest, upstanding person. That's going to be you. But then we tie it back to conceive, believe, achieve. We overcome those roadblocks. We continually practice and embody who we want to be, and we just become it. Growth is a constant process. We are constantly going to be reinventing ourselves, shedding the old, and becoming the new. Because as we grow, things might change. That's why we have to be like this torpedo or that heat seeker missile. We need to constantly recalibrate based on what's going on around us. But if you have that vision, some people call it the North Star. That's how I like to personally view it, the North Star. Then you can keep on going after it as long as it's crystal clear in your mind. So check in, see where you're at, recalibrate if you have to. It's okay. But don't give up. Use all these tools, self talk, positive imagery, habits. Stay committed. So if I were to boil this down into 10 things, it would be accept where you are now without judgment, fault, or blame. Identify the results you are getting and then identify the results, the life, and the dream that you want. Identify the habits and qualities necessary to be that person and live that life. If you can't do this on your own, ask for help, find a mentor, or hire a coach. Once you do that, take daily actions to rewire patterns of your old self. Rewire those brain layers. Start changing now and do it daily. 6, recalibrate and constantly analyze if you were on the right path. If not, change it. It's okay. Stay focused on where you're going. Analyze if you're on that right path and change it if you're not. We get distracted. It's cool. Just get back on the horse. Regularly practice and visualize the emotions and attitudes of who you are becoming. This is beyond just those habits. We can't just mindlessly go through this. We have to take on and embody the emotions and attitudes of that person too. That's how we change our subconscious. That's how we make the 90% of our brain work for us so that our body is working for us, our emotions are working for us, and our life is working for us. We become in control. Number 8, be bold, be patient, and believe. Number 9, stay focused. And number 10, achieve, get it done. This is the strongman success formula, but I hope you can see how this would work if you really wanted kind of anything. You have to really accept where you are, identify what you're doing, your results, what you want, take all of these action steps, and constantly work on becoming that person. So that comes to the end and conclusion of this goal setting seminar. If you have any comments or questions, you can hit me up on my Instagram at Stephen M. Coyne. If you're interested in a little more accountability, a little more help on achieving some of your strength goals, I'd like you to check out clubstrongman.com. It's my private community full of training programs. Got a couple different high-level coaches to help you stay accountable and keep you growing through challenges, and just an awesome community of other like-minded athletes that want to get better and are working hard at it, even with the challenges of their lives. So I hope you enjoyed this. It's something that's really helped me kind of change everything. I hope you got some benefit. And if you like this at all, or if you just have some comments, I'm always open to chat. This stuff is really, really awesome and very powerful. And I appreciate your time for being here and consuming this. So thank you so much. Enjoy. And as always, have a championship day.